Committee for the consideration of the Electricity Industry Bill.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Chairman.
How can you improve on perfection?
Members, the House's Committee on the Electricity Industry Bill. The question before the House, members, is that Clause 3 stand part.
Chairman.
I call Chris Hipkins.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak on Clause 3, did you say, of the Electricity Industry Bill. Can I make some introductory comments? The Labour Party will be opposing the Electricity Industry Bill. We opposed it at the first reading, we opposed it through the Select Committee process, and we will continue to oppose it now. Mr. Chairman, this bill simply dusts off Max Bradford's old policies of more market, more privatisation, more competition in the electricity sector. I can see Roger Douglas getting very excited about it already, but it will do nothing to address the three fundamental priorities in the electricity sector: security of supply, affordability and sustainability. It does nothing to address those things, and Mr. Chairman, that's the reason why the Labour Party will be opposing it, because New Zealanders are struggling to make ends meet at the moment. The National Government's GST increase, which of course will apply to electricity bills, does nothing to help them with that particular predicament, Mr. Chair. And therefore, this is simply another blow, because it doesn't deal with the fundamental issues that New Zealanders are currently facing. And those fundamental issues, of course, are the cost of living going up, and the Electricity Industry Bill does nothing to deal with that at all, Mr. Chair. So the Labour Party took a very active interest in hearing the submissions during the Select Committee process. We were concerned about a number of the issues that were raised, and we were concerned that the analysis doesn't appear to have been done to justify many of the provisions in this particular bill, which is one of the reasons why, and I'll be talking about more of those. We're particularly concerned about the asset swap involving the Waitaki water catchment system, and that's something that I'll talk about more when we get to that particular part of the bill. Because the case hasn't been made. The Treasury raised concerns about that, and so did the Institute of Professional Engineers and so forth. So we'll be raising a number of concerns regarding that when we get to that particular point in the bill. So, Mr. Chair, this bill, of course, as I mentioned in my introductory comments, does nothing to deal with National's major election promise when it came to electricity prices, which is that Jerry Brownlee and John Key and Bill English went up and down the country and said that power prices were too high, and that Labor had let the power prices continue to go up, and that they hadn't done anything about it. And what do we know? Here's a bill. What does it do? It doesn't address the issue of power prices, which is what New Zealanders were all expecting the government to deal with when it came into office and when it introduced this bill in the House. This bill is silent on power prices, and in fact it will do nothing to control the exorbitant rise in electricity prices that people have seen. It will do nothing to address the concerns raised by the Commerce Commission in its recent report on the electricity market, and in fact it raises a whole lot of new concerns and just simply goes back to the failed experiment that Max Bradford started in 1998. Now, of course, one of the criticisms that Jerry Brownlee keeps coming back to the Labor opposition and says, well, you had 9 years to deal with that, why didn't you do something? Well, it's very difficult to unscramble an egg. Very difficult to unscramble an egg when the government sold Contact Energy, privatised a lot of the retailers and the lines companies to the point where the local authorities did under direction from the government. Under direction from the government they did. They chose to, under direction from the government, they privatised the retailers and the lines companies, and it's very difficult to unscramble that particular egg and get back to the point where there could be any kind of coherent system. So instead, what the previous Labor government did was establish the Electricity Commission, which was designed to address some of the failures in the market. What Jerry Brownlee is now doing with this bill is stripping out many of the functions of the Electricity Commission by establishing the new Electricity Authority.
That's right.
What that Electricity Authority is going to do, though, is only look at a small part of the equation.
That's right.
And one of the biggest one of the biggest opportunities for us, if we're talking about more efficient use of energy, is to actually get people to use less energy if they don't need to. And that function is being taken away from the Electricity Commission. It won't be with the Electricity Authority. But actually that's just crazy. Because if we want the Electricity Authority to be kind of the overarching body that looks at all of these things, that manages the electricity sector, saying to them, you can manage the electricity sector, but we don't want you doing anything about electricity efficiency and more efficient use of electricity, actually reducing demand on the system, because then that's just crazy. Because, for example, in the transmission system and the management of the transmission system, one way that we avoid significant capital investment in the transmission system is to get more distributed use of electricity, more localised generation and more efficient use of electricity, and that's something that this bill doesn't address.
Just before I take the next call, could I just remind members that we're in the committee stage on the nuts and bolts, and this is the simplest clause that one could hope to see in legislation. This Act binds the Crown. Members should address their comments to the purpose of the clause and not have a wide-ranging debate.